All right, American Hammers TV. We're here live doing a match preview of the West Ham Southampton match this Saturday. A couple special co-hosts with me today. We like to do this. We like to usually take someone from, an American West Ham supporters group, and also take someone who works, with the, the media over there in the UK. West Ham related channel. We've had someone on from Irons United. We've had a bunch of people from Hammers Chat, and here we are again with someone else from Hammers Chat. This is Tom, and we also have Kyle from Fresno Irons, which is one of the largest West Ham United supporters groups in the country out of Fresno, California. What's up, guys?
Good afternoon. Lovely to join you guys. Lovely to join you.
Good afternoon, Tim. It's always a pleasure to be back on with you.
Awesome, man. Just real quick, I got to mention our sponsor here. It's the stuff that I drink every single episode, as you can tell, whether it be 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock in the morning or even 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm drinking this stuff. This stuff is awesome because it's organically infused with hemp oil, okay, CBD oil. It's called Strava Craft Coffee. It's premium craft coffee, but the way they infuse the CBD oil, it kind of counterbalances the caffeine. So you can drink it at 9 o'clock at night and you're not going to have a problem going to sleep, is my point. And a lot of people assume, like, hey, why are you drinking coffee at 9 o'clock at night? Well, it's not decaf. This is definitely regular. But just the amount of CBD oil in here, it kind of counteracts that. It's really awesome stuff. I just had to mention that because I forgot to mention that before. So that said, there's a link in the description below. If you want to treat yourself, you can save 15% off your first order by clicking the link below in the description. But anyway, here we are with the match. This is the first time this season, says Manuel Pellegrini, that he has had a full arsenal of players to choose from. He's going to have a tough selection ahead, unless he already, has it in mind that he might get some people out there in the shop window, or maybe some farewell appearances. Who knows? But we'll start with Kyle real quick. What do you predict not necessarily starting line, but who do you think is more likely to get an appearance or even a start that we haven't seen lately?
I'm an old school guy. I've always felt that if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. The lineup he put out against Tottenham, I thought played phenomenal. Mark Noble that was the Mark Noble that I've come to grow and love. I know we don't get that performance all the time, but that was absolutely brilliant. The way he spread the ball, the way he broke up play in the midfield. Honestly, if I'm Pellegrini, I don't change the starting lineup. I know that may rub some West Ham fans the wrong way because that means Arnie's up top. But, in all honesty, Arnie's hustle and everything that he did and the way that he's linking up with Antonio, Masuaku out there, I thought he played brilliant. Valbuena and Diop, that is our future partnership in the back. I just don't change anything because I really like that lineup we had against Tottenham. I thought they played well, and I think if he did make a change, I think that would affect the chemistry of the squad.
What do you think, Tom?
I'm in complete agreement with Kyle. I think, I think Pellegrini has struggled all season to find his best formation. I don't think he really still knows what his best 11 is. He's had to chop and change quite a lot. There's been obviously some unfortunate injuries, but I think the last few games since Manchester United, even though we took a loss there and a draw against Leicester at home, I thought the spirit that come through those 3 games, I thought was absolutely fantastic. And as Carl said, I think there was a lot of partnerships there at Spurs that, potentially I hope to see, not just for this season, but going into next season. We've got a solid defensive partnership in Balbuena and Diop. It's a shame that Diop's was almost too tired to carry on because he played so many games this year at centre half. Ogbonna he's done well for us. He's been a good servant, but I think obviously that is our future right there. Is this a Diop? He was absolutely immense the other day. Fullbacks can be a bit shaky, but again, Fredericks I thought the other day was superb. And Masuaku does have his frailty sometimes, but a good performance. The midfield, Noble, just the people always complain that his legs are gone or they're going. There was no sign of that at the weekend. That was just the Mark Noble of old, and he was like Carl said, his passing, his switch of play. There was a time in the first half, was it, or the second half, where he turned a little pivot and passed the ball through to Arnautovic around on the curve. And it's just simple things like that. But without trying to sort of speak too much, but I would keep the same 11. Even with Arnautovic, I think I saw at the end of the game, he went over and clapped the fans, and I think they were appreciative of the effort that he put in against Spurs. So I would have no issues with starting him up top on against Southampton at the weekend.
Neither would I. Now, that said, you just mentioned that it's actually been like the last 3 weeks that we've seen a dramatic improvement in performance. But that goes back to, well, we had a Bonner in there, like you said. We also had, Fredericks had a fantastic performance. I'd say minus the first 20 minutes or so of the Tottenham match. Took him a little while to settle in. But what about Zabaleta? He performed fantastic against Man U, and he performed, I thought, great against Leicester. Do we maybe see him come off the bench? Would you be opposed to him starting? Or the same thing with Bonner?
It's not that I'm opposed to Zabaleta starting. I'm not, but there has to be a cultural change with West Ham. We have to start giving our young guys opportunities. We have to go with them. Ryan Fredericks is arguably one of the fastest men in all of England. And, he needs to get on the pitch. He's only going to learn those things by playing. Experience speaks volumes. And having Zabaleta, I know he just re-upped. Thank God. I'm glad he's going to stay. But that is the absolute perfect person to tutor Ryan Fredericks on that right back position and what to do. And you've got Zabaleta now for cover. He's committed to the club for another year. But in all honesty, we got to start going where our future is. We constantly talk about where this club, we want it to be. Well, if we want to get there, it's guys like Ryan Fredericks, who we got kind of a bargain deal out of Fulham on, that's going to take us there. And we have to develop the talent. And I just firmly believe that if we're able to get Ryan Fredericks to play, and if we can get Masuaku to defend, and we can do some things like that, those are the young pieces that we need in place that are going to carry this team forward into the European spots, which is where we ultimately want to be.
Yeah, Tom?
Yeah, it's a difficult. The Fredericks and Zabaleta is a great sort of debate because they're very yin and yang. What one has, the other doesn't. What Zabaleta lacks in pace, he has in defensive awareness. He's been one of the best Premier League right backs probably of all time. He's in the conversation, especially for what he did in that period for City. And even for us, I think he struggles when he strings a lot of games together. I know he says he's, comfortable with playing a few more years, but his legs must be getting to the point where, of no return almost. Whereas Fredericks is absolutely brilliant going forward, and his pace is his greatest asset. But defensively, he's not as good as Zabaleta. So I'm much the same as Carl. Again, I think he's, I guess what you guys would say, he's great for the locker room. He's a brilliant sort of the tutor that Fredericks needs. I'm glad he stayed for another year almost because, like I said, hopefully it has time to work with Fredericks. But I think also the chopping and changing, I think, shows to me that Pellegrini necessarily doesn't trust Fredericks enough, which does worry me slightly. I think he realises the fact that going back and forth between them, maybe that is a position that he wants to look at to strengthen again. I don't know. But I think it's difficult when you're chopping and changing all the time. But I think Fredericks over the last few weeks has sort of improved. He's sort of getting there, but he's not. I don't know. For me personally, I would rather see Zabaleta start every week, but obviously I know that maybe the demand on his body, he can't take that so much anymore.
I agree. My problem, that I've mentioned this in the past, that my problem with Fredericks is that, yes, he has the pace. He's got an offensive mindset to him almost, but he doesn't have the fundamentals to keep up with that. Meaning, if you watch the first 20 minutes of the Tottenham match, you watch his the last match he had 90 minutes. Watching him pass the ball, it's almost a giveaway every single time. It's more often than not that he gives the ball away. He makes just piss poor. I don't know if it's piss poor decision making or it's just he just doesn't know how to pass the ball appropriately or head the ball. When the ball is up in the air, he heads it, doesn't even pay attention to where the ball is going to go. He just lifts it back up in the air, and then it almost all the time goes to the opponent. It's almost automatic. And fundamentals like that, you can't. I don't know if you can teach at his age, but it would be nice to see, like you said, Zabaleta, kind of teach him, more of the ins and outs and more of the, little tips and tricks and stuff. But I feel more safe having Zabaleta is my point.
I think Fredericks probably would have thrived more under David Moyes, I think, last year, because I think if he was suited to a Wolves style of play where it was a back three or a back five, and he could actually play as a wing back and have another centre half as a cover on his side, I think that would benefit him significantly. But obviously, that's not the style that Pellegrini plays, which I think is the issue that Pellegrini has, is both wing backs, especially when Crespo's not fit or Zabaleta is injured. You've got far too attacking fullbacks, and I think that works against us too many times and is ultimately the reason that we end up conceding, 2 or more goals a game, which has been the case for most of the season.
And go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's just, in my opinion, we're mathematically eliminated from 7th place. I think best case scenario, I think we can slide into 8th, but I think it's more realistic that we finish in 9th or 10th. So when I look at it, the risk is not that big and the reward is far better just to throw Fredericks in there and say, we're going with you. And he's going to have to learn this system. I understand that when the way Fredericks came in, we were targeting him under Moyes. Before Pellegrini came in, it was probably more of an owner's signing than anything, because I'm not sure. I think you're correct, Tom. The jury might be kind of out on, does Pellegrini rate him or not. But, I mean, really, he's a guy that there's too much talent there not to try and foster it and see what he can become. Because when you have that kind of pace, you have the ability to make up for a mistake because you're faster than everybody on the pitch. So if we can learn those fundamentals under Zabaleta, these last 2 games, if he plays in that right back position, 1, you're saving Zaba's legs for next season if you need him, and 2, you're gaining valuable experience for Ryan Fredericks to get out there and go, because I personally believe he is our future right back, and I think Pellegrini will end up rating him, and he will be the guy.
Yeah, and I actually rate Fredericks more defensively than I do offensively. It's my point, is that he seems to have this not will, but like he really wants to get the ball forward when he has possession, and that's what I'm saying. He's also the first person to lose possession. That's my problem with it. I mean, defensively, if he f's up offensively or he's marking somebody, he's super quick. I mean, I'm not knocking his defensive skills. He's not as bad as I don't know, most people, I guess, would think that he is. It's just that Zabaleta is much more sound, but it's also a crapshoot when you throw Zabaleta out there, because you don't know, is his legs going to be on today? I mean, is he going to be able to keep up with the wingers or the strikers or whoever else? It's a crapshoot. But when Zabaleta's on, he's also 100% on. I feel more safe with that, but I'm also a gambler, I guess. So I would say Zabaleta. But anyway, on the note of getting the youth in there, especially, look, we already should have got our youth in there more the last 6 or 7 games, I think, other than Diangana, really. But my main thing is that I wish we would have seen Holland already. I've been saying this over and over and over again, and I really hope he gets, at least an appearance in the last 2 matches. Diangana, it would be nice to see him as well, but I guess we don't even know if they're going to be on the bench. What do you guys think about we already talked about the starting 11, so who do you really want to see on the bench, and also not just on the bench, but maybe make an appearance?
I'd take Holland 100%. I think it was exactly the same as you. I think it was such a shame he had a major injury blow, because I think he was on the cusp of getting into sort of in and around the first team squad with the likes of Diangana and Coventry, and he reminds me cutting in on that, because he obviously plays on the left hand side, but he can cut in and finish with his right. He's done it all season for the under 23s when he's played. We've seen a few of his highlights. He's looked fantastic. And I think the issue with Diangana is sometimes he's left footed. He's got no right foot. I think that obviously hinders him when he plays on either wing for either positive or not reasons, especially if he's down that right hand side and he gets trapped in the corner. He struggles to work the ball out because of his left foot. So for me personally, like I said, I would rather see Holland. He was dubbed the next Ryan Giggs when we signed him from Everton. So I wish that one day he could get somewhere even close to that. But I think as well, Xande Silva is another one. Obviously, I would I'd like to see. I know he had a couple of runouts earlier in the season. We've had probably the most talented set of youngsters we've had in quite a long time. But it's sort of been either Pellegrini's been reluctant to play them, or it just, we have a bigger squad this year and it's sort of not been as feasible. So, on the one hand, another one is probably alluded to is Ben Johnson. I thought he played absolutely fantastically up at Manchester City. There is a right back for the future. I think if after Zabaleta goes, he will cement himself maybe as the number 2 in that spot, and ultimately maybe Pellegrini's seen something that he is the future beyond Fredericks. So I'm at the position now where, like Carl said, if we finish, we can finish 8th, 9th, whatever. And ultimately, I don't think that makes a difference in terms of how much money we get for the summer window with the board. I think they already have their initial target set and they will spend to that point. So I don't think it matters if we get an extra 5 or 10 million for finishing a few places different. So I'd like to see the manager have some fun, go at home. It's sort of, the change rough. We don't have to worry about relegation or getting 7th. So I'd love to see Holland play this weekend. But I imagine he's going to go full strength 11, and we're not going to get a chance to see that. So,
Kyle? I agree with Tom. Nathan Holland is the kid that we hear about all the time. At some point, I can tell you how hot my girlfriend is, but I eventually got to show her to you. So they tell us how good Holland is. Let's put him out there. Let's see what he can do out there against the Premier League side, against Premier League competition. A couple of guys that I'm excited to see hopefully make the bench. I hope Jack Wilshere's on the bench, and I hope he gets out there. I'm not sure how I feel about Jack Wilshere. He played for Arsenal, and Arsenal is just one of those things that just, like you feel about Tottenham, Tim, that's the way I feel about Arsenal. I can't stand it. I want to see Wilshere get out there. I do believe there's a future for Wilshere at the club. I think he's got too much talent. But, again, if he can't stay healthy, I don't know. I'd like to see that. I want to see Lanzini make the bench. I think Lanzini, yes, he's not consistent, but I do want to see some young kids. I'd like to see Silva make the bench. And if we get a goal up and there's 20 minutes left, I'd like him to see Chunk Silva on, because the one thing that I've learned about Silva and watching him in a few matches is he's an incredible finisher. And if he can get his foot on the end of a ball, it's going to find its way to the net. So, we have to prepare for the future here, dropping some guys that, like Sanchez and Nasri. I hope they don't make the bench. I think Nasri had his opportunity to make this team a better team, and then he got hurt. And I think it just, it's not going to work out. We've signed too many guys that get hurt too often. And at some point we have to just go where we have the opportunity to get guys that can play. Availability is everything for West Ham right now. And so you have to be available. And it doesn't matter how good you are, what you've done in the past, if you're not available, you're nothing to us. And that's what always bothers me in our summer transfer policies. We go sign these guys and you look at their injury report and it's longer than my rap sheet.
But if that's the case, then Lanzini's no good. You know what I mean? When he hasn't played much this season, and he comes back, and then we overplay him, and he gets hurt again. So my point is, listen, I'm a proponent of Nasri. Like when he actually does play, he absolutely makes the club better. He absolutely makes everybody around him better. He's a creator. He's a playmaker. He's a class above a lot of the players. even Rusty, not at 100%. He's a lot better than some of the players that we have on our starting 11, let alone the bench. But just real quick, there's people in the chat room talking. Since we're talking about the the youth here, someone was even saying that they'd like to see Trott get a run out at some point. Nathan Trott. And also Holland and everybody else we've mentioned. Now, this is one of the greatest times in West Ham history, because we have not in many, many, many years been able to say, look at all these studs that we have in our under-23s, and not only on the under-23s, but also on loan even. So it's kind of exciting for next year. We've never been so excited about this many players on the under-23s, and I can't remember how long, really. But
I think there's a major issue there, because in terms of there's so many guys that are maybe players now. I remember how excited we got when Martin Samuelsson looked brilliant in his first few games in Europe when we were back at the Boleyn in our last season. Tony Martinez was banging him in in the Premier League too. Where's he now? He's at Real Honda or something in Spain in the second division. And it's there. Even Domingos Quina, all talk of him. He goes to Portugal, the Toulon tournament or wherever he played at the World Cup for the under 21s or 19s. Oh, he's the best player there. Now he's gone to Watford. He scored a goal in the cup. Nothing since. I mean, these guys, they clearly have talent. We are taking from bigger clubs and bringing here, but they're either not getting the opportunity or they're not just panning out the way that I guess we once saw. And I think that's the issue. Sometimes we can overhype players. Reece Oxford for one of how good he was, and look what happened there. So I think there are quality youngsters, but there needs to be a special system that we can nurture them and bring them through, maybe not too soon, or maybe not as much hype around them, because I just think there's a lot of those guys that we've signed that we thought, damn, these guys are brilliant, and have eventually faded sort of into nothing.
There's so many of them that have not got the minutes that Diangana got this year, and that's my point, is that what I was leading into is the fact that it's been a big disappointment for we unfortunately we can't watch the trainings. We can't go there, especially us Americans over here. We don't, we can't just go to Rush Green and watch what's going on or whatnot. But anyway, we don't know how really good they are in even training. But I prefer to see them training, with the top team, than going out on loan sometimes, depending on which club they go to, because a League One, like an Oxford United, the competition in League One, yeah, it's really good, but they're not training day to day with the men on the top team. They're not getting the same routines in, as the top players, and that's what I prefer to see. That I prefer to see a Holland stick around, Diangana and Ben Johnson and Nathan Trott and all these guys. I'd rather see them stick around the club, but unfortunately, I'd rather even more so see them get some fucking minutes. Like, they're not getting. There's a lot of them that haven't got any minutes at all, this season. And other than Diangana and Ben Johnson, like you said, unfortunately for Ben Johnson, yeah, he got a knock during that match, so he wasn't able to really get back into it. But I'm pretty sure if he didn't pick up that knock, he probably would have played again the next week. But what do we do about that? I mean, that's a Pellegrini thing. That's ultimately his decision.
I think that's the sacrifices you make almost, because whilst we've got a new stadium, a shiny new stadium, we've got promises from owners that have gone back years and years and years now, and I think that's the issue, is that when the fans are screaming and they're almost they want blood, they want Champions League football, they want what they were promised, and whereas the guys in the youth team, they were obviously dating back years now, we're talking back to the days of Bobby Moore, we're always, as a club, we give the youth a chance, and they're far more willing to allow I don't know, Diangana to make a few cock-ups than when, Zaza or people like that come in. It's, get out of the team. We don't want you here. But I think the experience is key, and obviously they don't get that. And then I don't think Pellegrini's willing to risk them, especially when he's fighting for European football for the club. And that's kind of what we want to see, but I just don't think we're going to get to see it as long as we want to push, for those European spots, unfortunately.
Yeah, I tend to agree right with both of you. It's just kind of it's a situation where when you watch West Ham and the way the game is played, West Ham are that team that always gave people chances, but the way that the game is played and the manager who's sitting there now, he's never really been a guy to give youth a massive opportunity. I don't recall him doing much of that at City. He did for a couple of guys, but when you're expectation is to finish as high in the league table as possible, it's tough to sit there and put that on the line to bring in a guy like, Connor Coventry, or bring in Nathan Holland and say, have a go. And, if they make a mistake, I mean, remember, was it last year, Declan Rice had that massive mistake and we gave up a goal and it lost us a game and the fans crushed him. So you also have to think about the player. Do they have that kind of mental makeup like Declan Rice does, where he can make that mistake and he's going to be okay? Because Moyes totally crapped on him, totally shit on him when that happened. And then, the fact that Declan Rice is the person that he is, he has that mental makeup and that fortitude. Now he's back, and arguably you could make the argument he's our best player.
Which is amazing, because yeah, resources were too, but the amount of sports scientists and so on that are employed by the club, you know, they should be able to, in coaching staff and everything, they should be able to evaluate these certain things. They must be taking these, you know, personality tests and stuff like that and make sure, hey, can they handle, you know, not just, you know, 60,000, you know, home fans, but, you know, going in an away match and getting tortured, or even getting tortured by your own home fans by making a mistake. I'm pretty sure, you know, there's got to be somebody, you know, evaluating that. But there is a rumor that's been going around for a couple of months now that Pellegrini is going to overhaul the youth coaching staff and bring in his own guys. So I don't know how true that is, but what does that say? You know, if it were to happen, what does that say about, you know, what we're talking about him, you know, not not playing youth players? Maybe he was waiting to bring in his own guys, or maybe he's just looking for a second opinions from his own guys. I don't know. What do you guys think about that, Tom?
I think just quickly before I say that, I think what Carl said there, especially with Reece Oxford, I remember the game where we beat Everton 3-2, we came back from 2 goals down. Reece Oxford had one of the worst halves I'd ever seen from a youngster, and he was yanked at half time. And it can go either two ways. It can go the Declan Rice way, where you go back to the drawing board and you think, right, I'm going to do my absolute darndest to get back into the squad and fight for my place. Or you can think, right, well, I'm going to live my career off of one good game against Arsenal and then get paid for it. And, you know, that's it. Do you know what I mean? As for his coaching going forward, I think he's brought in some fantastic guys already with his team. I think obviously the signing with WHUSOU in the summer or last summer, I think was brilliant. I think him working with a director of football almost to help him make the decisions in terms of transfers and try and take it out of Sullivan's hands is the best thing that happened to the club. And I think you've got to look at what Pellegrini's done previously with the clubs that he's managed and what he did for young players specifically. I mean, don't forget when he was at Malaga, look what he did for Isco. You know, what a talent he turned out to be. So clearly he identifies youth and he speaks highly of people like Declan Rice, saying he's one of the best youngsters I played with. So he's willing to give youth a chance. So if he was to bring people in, I know Terry Wesley has done a fantastic job with some of those guys down there in the youth setup. But I don't think Pellegrini would get rid of Wesley per se, maybe moves into a different role. But if he wants to bring in guys that can help, who he think will help develop his team, because obviously he has like a 2 or 3 year plan to develop the club, and he wants to emulate what he did at Malaga and etc. By all means, I think it's a positive step forward for the club.
Tom, I agree with you. My hammer of the year, I know we can't give it to him, it would always be WHUSOU. I think he's come in and he's solidified our transfer policy. He's been absolutely phenomenal. I know we can't give it to him, but I would. I will say this: when we made the decision to get a world-class manager like Manuel Pellegrini, as far as I'm concerned, you got to back him 100%. You got to go all in. If he wants to overhaul the youth staff, by all means, he should have the right to do it. It's his baby now, and we're all in. And it's kind of like the Philadelphia 76ers here in the States. You got to kind of trust the process. You know, you just kind of got to go through it and understand that there are changes going to be made. You know, we've had an up and down season. Well, I don't think the season's been as good as we had hoped, but the season hasn't been as poor as it could have been. You know, we started off incredibly poor, but we had a run there in the middle of the season where I think we ran 4 or 5 in a row. So the thing is, if he wants to come over and overhaul it, it's just like any new head coach that comes in anywhere. He's got to have his guys in place that operate under his premises and have the same ideals that he does, because that's the only way it's going to work. And anything that you do, you know, if everybody's speaking the same language from top down and has the same vision, then it's ultimately going to be a good thing for the club. And so I'm all in on Pellegrini. I would much rather have him than the fat Spanish waiter we were linked with. So that's just really what it comes down to for me. Whatever Pellegrini wants, we got to back him because, you know, like you said, he's proven what he's done at Malaga and he's proven what he's done at Man City. I know he's given youth a hope, but I just – the way the English Premier League is, it's just so hard to give youth a chance, and I just hope that we don't fall into that trap.
Yeah. Well, with only, I guess, Kyle, we only got about 10 more minutes with you. So let's get into the actual match itself. You guys both made valid points on that, by the way. I'm not trying to brush that off at all. It was actually a really good conversation. It's just we end up talking more about a season review. So they do have 2 key injuries for this upcoming match. Southampton does. Do you think that since they don't have anything really to play for, I mean, are they going to be up for it? Do you think Southampton will really be up for this match? Just because they want to get one over on us, maybe, or do you think we can just steamroll them? What are your thoughts, Tom?
Personally, I think both. I think both will be, flip flops and sandals and towels out. I think we did our hard bit. I think the last game against Spurs probably was that. I think that was it really for the players. I think they realised that was probably the biggest game left of the season, just to do one over your local rivals. And I think Southampton, I think they've done their hard bit. Obviously, they secured survival again for another season. So, like you said, I think that's it. I think that, I'm not saying that they're just going to bend over and allow us just to slap them in, across the arse. But I think that they like you said don't have much to play for now. They can afford to lose 2-1, 3-1. So I think it will be sort of one of those games where it's kind of 85, maybe 70% effort, something like that. But it's definitely not going to be what it would be in the middle of the season.
And then do you think, Tom, how do I put it, does Southampton actually have a good shot at the game? How do you think they match up against us?
I think I was surprised. I think that there comes a point you get rid of your players every single summer. There comes a point when that little, revolving door that they've had with Liverpool and some other teams the last few years, it stops. Like there comes a point when that's it. You're going to fall into that lower echelon of the Premier League, and it's dangerous when you get down there. And again, they've got some fantastic young players, but they've struggled. I think that Mark Hughes I hated him as manager. I just think he was one of the worst managers. I've hated him since his City days, since Blackburn. He's just one of those managers that grinds on me. It's just negative style of football. But I think they took a risk on a massive risk in signing Hazenhutl or whatever his name is. And he seems to have worked well with them. He did what he was tasked to do, which was to sign some youngsters, not sign some youngsters, keep them from relegation. So it was all that talk of young players has got in my head. But yeah, I think they're not the Southampton of old, put it that way, and they don't have the young players that maybe they once did that they can sort of rely on now. And they've got a good few individual talents, but nothing that should ultimately scare us. And I like to think that this is the kind of team that we should, our bread and butter points, as we would call it, that we should be beating week in, week out at teams like this.
Kyle, do you think that Danny Ings and what's that other guys, Shane Long, do you think they pose a threat? I mean, they tend to score against us. I mean, they have a history of scoring against us. I mean, do you think anybody else in that squad really has any? You think they have a good chance, Southampton?
It's the West Ham way to say they don't have a good chance. I mean, like they do. They absolutely do. I thought I've watched a couple Southampton matches the last couple of weeks. Danny Ings he's played well. We've been linked with him. That means he's got a good shot to score on us. Shane Long also he's been linked with us. That means he will most likely have an opportunity to score. I think Shane Long's got 4 goals in 5 games for them. So I mean, he's been going. The good news for us is Shane Long never in his career has scored 3 goals in 3 consecutive games. So he scored 2 in a row. So that means there's a good shot he won't score on us. Thank God.
You've jinxed us. You've jinxed us now.
Not brought that to light. He will score. When I look at Southampton, it's a classic. What we call a trap game. We're coming off an emotional high, beating Tottenham. Are arch rivals, the team that we want to beat. And it's kind of like, you have to – this has been my issue with Pellegrini all year. This is where Pellegrini earns his money, is these types of matches, because we have to come out and play consistently. We've had arguably 4 strong performances in a row. Yes, they haven't all gone our way. Obviously when you play the big boys, the refs are never on your side, and we're fully aware of that. But what really is frustrating me is this is the type of game we should come out and win 3-1 or 2-0. We should win this game that way. But, Redmond is a guy that, he always seems to show up when he plays us. They've got Prowse, who's been playing very well this year, and I believe you pronounce his name Hoiberg or whatever. He's been playing well all year. They've got like Tom said, individuals that play well, but if they show up on their day, they're gonna cause problems for us. And we have proven all year that we are very sketchy in the back. And if we're not linked up together in the back and we're pushing forward too much, we're gonna get caught out.
Yeah, you're right, and I feel that way too. Now, real quick, let's do predictions, man. Kyle, all that said, what do you think? What do you think the score will be?
I'm a fan, so that's short for fanatic. I'm telling you right now, I think West Ham win 2-0. I believe Arnie's finally going to get back on the score sheet. And then I really, really hope that we get to see Manuel Lanzini finally put one in the back of the net this year.
What do you think, Tom?
I'm also going with a win. I'm saying 3-1. I think we just got too much on the day. I hope the guys haven't sort of gone to the beach just yet, but I think it's a day for the front three. Like Kyle, I think Arnautovic might score, and I think Felipe Anderson's going to score, and I think maybe even Antonio get one. But I hope, which means that we're probably going to lose, but I'd say it was be a comfortable 3-1 win for us tomorrow.
All right. Well, since all but last week, all of my predictions except last week have been completely off. Well, actually, no, last week was completely off too, but that was the point. So anyway, I usually pick West Ham regardless. I always predict a win one way, shape, or form. I just adjust the score line based on how good of a chance we have of winning. Well, last week I said on purpose, since I'd been disastrously wrong leading up to it, I said we would lose 3-2 to Tottenham, and we ended up winning. So that said, I will say again, we're going to lose 3-2 to Southampton just so that we win. All righty? And it worked last week, and I hope it works again. Just real quick, we have a bunch of people in the chat room, which is awesome as always, man. I really appreciate you guys, watching the videos, and also, they tend to chat amongst themselves quite a bit here. We have Jason, who's been popping in a lot. The Vans United, he says he's from Russia, which is kind of cool. Wally World, who he's been on almost every single episode of ours. He's watched live with us, and we're going to have him and also one of our other weekly watchers, Gabe DeLeon. We're going to have him on as well with Wally as our guests on June 9th to kind of say thank you for for being so loyal to us and being there pretty much since the beginning, which is kind of cool. Lee, my usual co-host, his pilot friend Ken is in here as well with us, and who is it? Wally World says he likes the comment there, trust the process. That was kind of cool. Ken says 1-1. Jason says 5-2. The Vans United says 2-1. Yeah, he's optimistic. I guess
very, very optimistic.
Yeah. Tom, Americans, we like everything in excess. That includes our goals.
Yeah.
I predicted a 5. Well, this all started when I predicted a 5-0 victory over Cardiff, because I said there was absolutely no way that we should have lost that on paper. I mean, there was no way. They would have everything going for us. They had everything against them. We had the much better team. They really don't. And I felt that we were.
That's every reason why you don't pick us. 23 years of misery has told me that is why you do not pick us in any situation remotely similar to that.
But this is cool because a lot of these guys in here, like I said, there's one from Russia, there's a guy from Philadelphia. There's a couple. Someone says it's from Colchester. That's kind of cool. I really appreciate you guys watching. So please subscribe to the channel. Listen, guys, sorry to cut this short, but thank you so much for being here. Kyle, especially, he's teaching today, and he's on his lunch break with us, which is kind of cool. And Tom, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you popping in. I hope to have you back again. We're probably going to do some more. Once the season's over, we're going to do a lot. Instead of doing the match previews, we're going to do a lot of like transfer stuff and also like a season review and try to come up with some more cool things to do. And I'd love to have you back, Tom. So I appreciate that. And Kyle, you as well, buddy. You know that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Sorry about the kind of short today, but I also got to go pick up my kids. I forgot about that. So thanks for reminding me. I should get home early.
My fault. We're cutting it off. It's my fault. I apologize.
I'll take it. Nope, I'll take it. It's all good. All right. Come on, you irons.